Hey, y'all, it's me, your host, Coach Pilar Arthur Sneed. Thanks so much for joining me here for another episode of the Last 10th podcast. You know, and I know I am going to say it, but it is another week and another moment for me to be so excited. Every week I get to talk to the best people in this sport of running. And I just feel so blessed to be able to do that. This week is no different. This week, I have with me on the podcast, I have Jodie Bayardo. You may know her as the Blind Fit, is it Blind Fit Girl or Blind Fit Runner?
Blind Girl Fit.
Blind Girl Fit. Okay. I do this all the time. It's my, anyway, I've been following her for a hot minute. I love her account, super positive. She's a mom, she's a runner, she's an advocate for folks with disabilities. And I am just excited to have you, Jodie. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Excellent. So where I usually like to start with having guests just tell me a little bit about themselves. Tell me and also tell the guests about you. Anything you'd like to share.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jodie Bayardo. I live in Central Florida. I'm a mom to a 10-year-old son and 2 rescue puppies who I love very much. I have been running for, probably like 5-6 years now. I ran pre-disability and post-disability, so kind of have both sides of the coin.
Yes.
I am a 3-time marathoner, 18-time half marathoner, kind of chasing those world majors.
Yes.
Loving what I do.
Yes.
I am a mortgage banker in my professional life, so that keeps me busy. And yeah, just super, super excited to be on the show today and talk to everyone.
Excellent. So tell me, how did you get involved? How did you get involved in running? Like, what brought you into this crazy heady sport that we call running?
Oh my gosh, right? Well, I always kind of laugh at myself and say I'm kind of a Forrest Gump. One day I just felt like running. That's kind of what it was.
I understand. Yes.
So I had my son, and I, was struggling to get that weight off. I'd been overweight my entire life. And I thought that, running would be a great way to combat that, help me get back in shape. At the time, I had a very traditional understanding about what a healthy body looked like and what healthy activity looked like. And I'm thankful to say my relationship with that as I run more has evolved.
Yes.
But it did start as a health journey, a weight loss journey.
Yes.
And I remember I was on YouTube, I saw an ad for a Spartan race. And I was like, if I could just do that, like, boy, I have made it in life.
Yes.
And so I just kind of ran around my block, and I think I made it like a few feet and was like huffing and puffing. And but I loved it, and I didn't give up, and I loved the way it made me feel. And so I just started running one day and kept on going.
Yes. So did you actually complete the Spartan race? Did you actually do that?
15 times.
15 Spartan races.
Yeah, that was kind of my introduction into the community. I had lost about 100 pounds. I was running, I was lifting, I was really feeling fit. So in 2015, I did my first Spartan Super. And that was just, I found friends, and I found a community, and I found a life, I had grown up with a very traditional sense of healthy people and healthy bodies, but I got into running, and it looks like everyone, you have people of every body shape, every color, every size, every ability. And that was so beautiful to me. It totally changed everything, I believe. So I started at the Super, went and did sprints, traveled around, did the World Championship twice.
Wow.
In Tahoe. So it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I loved it. I still run Spartan now and then every time it comes to town. It's fun.
Wow. I am definitely in awe of athletes who do Spartan races, Ninja Warrior. I've watched so many seasons of Ninja Warrior. I know that Spartan and Ninja Warrior are it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same thing. And there's OCR, I guess. There are different little segments of these sort of strength endurance test and running things. And I'm in awe of all of them. And I don't want to say that I say that I can't do it, but I often say, gosh, that looks like something. I just don't think I can do that. So that means
totally
I need to like put it on a list. I need to make it happen.
Yeah, you totally could. And I think if you showed up at the starting line, you would have so much encouragement.
Yes.
You would have high fives, and you'd see people, everyone who are just undertaking a health journey to the fittest of the fit, and
yes.
everyone can do it.
Yes.
I love it. It's very accessible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you have run 3 marathons, and 18 half marathons. This is a really great track record in running. So like, when did you kind of make a shift from Spartan races to road racing?
So I think originally I started running as a means to improve my obstacle course racing.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I started running more, I just realized that's really where my heart was. That's what cleared my mind. That's what made me feel good. The strength and endurance, it was fun. I still lift, cross train and things like that. But the running was just really what brought me a lot of joy. And running on trails and running in all different environments. I've traveled to so many different races, and I love the community. And so that's kind of really what took my heart. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to kind of see how far I can take this running thing. I really like this part.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned in your bio, and I like the way that you phrased it. You kind of phrased it as, I do all these things, and I also happen to be blind, legally blind. So tell me a little bit more about the shift that you found in transitioning from sighted running, I guess, to non-sighted running, if that question makes sense. I don't know, but like, was there, and I think the shift that I'm looking for is not only physical shift, but mental shift, right? Yeah.
Definitely. I think that I had come so far on my, health journey, and I was feeling like very on top of the world, like I got this. And then when I was 29, I was heading toward the finish line in a 5K, and I had this big green spot in my left eye. And I kept thinking like, oh, it's just the sun, it'll go away. And 3 days later, it didn't go away. So I went in and, got my diagnosis. And so I began losing my sight at 29. So I had to unlearn 29 years of, ableism and things that you don't think about, accessibility, that it's just not on your radar when you've always been a fully able-bodied person.
Absolutely.
So I went from a lot of trail running, a lot of uneven terrain, to really embracing road running because it was flat and predictable. So doing a lot of training on treadmills, to having friends as guides. And I think when you lose one of your senses, when you lose, an ability, there is a grieving process. And I think that running and the fact that I was able to transition and find a new way to do the same thing helped me translate that into life. That I could still work. I could still be a mom. I could still do all the things that I did before. I would just relearn to do them in a different way. So running really, really helped me with that transition.
When you talk about ableism, can you talk a little bit about how that might manifest itself, I think within the running community? Like, what are some ways in which you might show up to a race and go, oh, this race is totally not set up for me at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's really things that you never think about. Everything from putting the pins on your bib, right? I had to switch to magnets because the pins would poke me. I have no depth perception. I can't see. But the terrain, things not called, changes in grades not being called out, mile markers that are this big, really tiny. I can't see that. People being in waves that are very, very densely packed, a multitude of things, water stops. I remember being at a Run Disney race shortly after I started experiencing a lot more vision loss, and we were just so tightly packed. And I just remember thinking, please just don't let me trip and ruin my race and ruin everyone else's race. And the biggest thing is not being accommodating. So when an athlete asks for accommodations, oftentimes we're told, oh, that's, I'm sure you'll be okay, or you'll be fine, or, oh, you don't look blind. Oh, I didn't know blind people look a particular way.
That's okay. Exactly right. But okay, that's fine.
But okay. So those types of things, I really need to run with a sighted guide. And it's just for things, calling out the curves, calling out the grade changes. If somebody runs too close to me, making everyone else aware that I'm not aware of where you are.
Right.
So I, be aware of me because I can't be aware of you.
That's right. Exactly.
Those kinds of things. I think getting the accommodations that we request, because not every race can put up giant mile markers. Not every race can be as inclusive to everyone as we need them to be. There are definite ways that we can have accommodations made and to have those honored without question. I've had to furnish medical documents in order to get my accommodations made. Just please, just accommodate me. I'm just trying to run and enjoy my race.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I think that for me, that's one of the things that's the most boggling to me, that someone says, I need X, and someone will say in turn, well, prove it. and the like, to me, I'm like, I don't think that anyone should have to prove it.
No,
do you know what I'm saying? Like, who is going to go out of their way to create a situation in which they just want to do something. Go ahead.
I don't really enjoy running with a giant yellow bib on my back. I'm not getting anything from that. I just want other people to not trip over me.
That's right.
My friends are all runners themselves. I'm sure, I'm not the fastest person in the world. I'm sure they'd love to outrun me. I'm sure they're not having their best race by guiding me, but they're being kind in doing that. And so the race should accommodate them in doing so.
I agree.
Some races do a fantastic job and they're very accommodating. New York City Roadrunners was wonderful to me. They granted my every accommodation. And then some races really struggle with understanding what I need and why.
Indeed. Absolutely. So we talked really briefly about the Paralympics that are coming up, and in general, the Olympics and the Paralympics is presenting a lot of problems for runners across all different spectrums and walks of life. So as I understand it, there was a runner who needed to have, it was not a runner, sorry, but it was an athlete who was going to the Olympics who needed to have like a personal assistant or someone who needed to be with them to help them just with daily life things. And they said, no, I'm sorry, you cannot bring this person. So they backed out. I mean, again, mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing.
Yeah, and that athlete in particular, Becca Meyer, she's been to the Paralympics before. She is a deaf-blind swimmer. So she has Usher syndrome. She has no hearing and no vision. So her mother has been her personal care attendant through every track meet, through every phase of everything. And now in Tokyo, they're saying no. They're saying that one attendant is acceptable for 33 Paralympic swimmers, 9 of whom are visually impaired. And maybe it is okay for those 8 other athletes, but Becca has lived in her body for as many years as she's lived in it, and she knows what she needs.
That's
so,
right.
you know, I always tell people I've lived in my body for 34 years. I
That's
know
right.
my daily struggle. I know what I need and what I don't need. And it's incredibly ableist to tell someone who is requesting accommodation to tell them in what manner you are willing to accommodate them instead of just honoring the manner in which they're requesting to be accommodated.
That's right. That's right. I always think of it as something like, it's not really the same thing, but you know, you step on someone's foot and they say, ow. And you say, well, you should have moved your foot. Right? Right. Like it's just like, I that doesn't make any sense to me. So how can able-bodied runners help to address these issues, not only at, obviously we're not all going to the Tokyo Olympics, but address these issues, you know, on a more local level? Or, you know, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I so appreciate that people are really starting to understand. And I think there's been a lot of understanding of the way that we can use our platforms and our voices to amplify marginalized voices. There's so many things that you can do, sharing Becca's story, sharing other athletes' stories. And if you see an athlete at a race who is maybe racing that race a little bit differently than you. Maybe they're running with a guide. Maybe they are in a corral that you don't feel like they belong in. They have some type of accommodation to not pass judgment, to be kind, to understand that that person is enjoying their race in the way that is best for them and feels good for their body. And we're paying for our races, we're training, we're working hard. I don't tell you that you can't eat cookies for breakfast if it makes you have a good race. I don't tell you what shoes to wear. I don't tell you what training plan to follow. Don't tell me what accommodations I need to enjoy my race.
That's exactly right. Agreed. I agree with that 100%.
Spreading the message of, that there are runners of different ability levels, and it's not just a vision loss thing. People could have some type of mental impairment. People could have a physical impairment that they need to start in a different corral, and they're in your 8-minute corral and you're mad because they're running 12 or 14, but you don't know what that person is going through, and you don't know the reason why, you don't know their experience. So just always come from a good place, come from kindness. Love your fellow runner. We're all out there with the same goals and same passion.
Exactly right.
So that would be my biggest advice.
And that's exactly right. And you mentioned something that I also think is a critical point, which is that not all challenges, not all disabilities are something that you can see. You can't see everything that someone is going through. You can't see it. So it goes back to what you were saying before, which is that if I say that I need this, I shouldn't have to jump through 10,000 hoops in order for whoever the person who needs to make the accommodations to offer those or to give those willingly and freely. Yeah.
I think that as a community, we need to be a lot more vocal about the help that we need, and a lot more practice a lot more self-advocacy. I spent so much of my life harder time than I really needed to because I was afraid to ask for help. I was afraid to say, hey, I have a visual impairment and I need X, Y, and Z. And that's largely because of the pop culture references, right? We see people that are blind and we think it means they're lights out, no vision, they need a cane, they wear dark glasses, they stay in their house, they don't do things. And disability as a whole is presented really poorly in the media. We don't have people who are in executive leadership, who are running, who are active, who are greatly successful, and they just so happen to have a disability. So I think as a community, I know that we definitely exist, and we just need to exist on a much larger and a much prouder way. I love Disability Pride Month. It's allowing us to really create a platform and create a lot more visibility into who we truly are, and not who larger society has told us that we are or tried to define us as.
Absolutely. I am a huge, huge proponent of marginalized communities being able to tell their own stories, and to tell the story in a way that is authentic and meaningful to you. Because if you don't have the opportunity to share your story, that's the first thing. If you don't have the opportunity to share it, and if no one gets to hear it, see it, they can't in turn be able to see themselves in you. So by the very fact that, in some ways, I think by the very fact that we all marginalized communities, we exist, like that in and of itself is an act of resistance and an act of defiance and an act of empowerment. And the more that we can do that, and then we can take it like one more step further from there to be able to say, I'm here, I'm proud of the person that I am, and you're not going to stop me. It's just, that's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I love that. I love seeing, how much social media and how much, things are progressing. We're becoming a lot more emboldened. So many people that have been oppressed for so long are finding their voices, and it's beautiful to see. And it's the more we do it, the more we speak out, the more the community will grow, and the more others will feel empowered to do the same. When I first was diagnosed, I remember thinking, I will sit in my house. I will wear dark glasses. I'm gonna, I won't be able to work. I won't be able to do all these things. And I have been infinitely more successful since I've had my disability. And I think a lot of it is because I've had to develop that self-confidence, that self-advocacy. I've had to become so much more self-assured. So there's a blessing in everything. But I love that we're speaking up more and being more vocal and rallying the troops to show what we really are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned before that, finding out that you were losing your sight, that you had to go through this grieving process, right? Like you're grieving this being that you were before and coming into being a new being. So talk to me a little bit about that process of coming, I guess, I don't know if coming to terms with it is really the right word, but I guess it's like making a transition into a new you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really challenging because I was very young, and the doctor who originally diagnosed me was very unkind. He just basically said, "Hi, you're blind. Have a nice day. You're never going to get your sight back. I can stab you a bunch of times, and maybe you won't go more blind, but you probably will. So have a good day." So it was a
oh my
really
God.
Yeah, he was. I'm sure he did his best, but there was no support. There was no, these are your resources. This is who can help you. It was just kind of, you're blind. Have a good day. So I grieved that, I spent 29 years as a sighted woman. I have my career. I actually had done makeup and owned my own makeup artistry company for a long time. So I thought, I'll never do makeup again. I thought of all the things I couldn't do. And that's why running was such a great transition, because it showed me that I could make a new path and I could do the same things. I just had to do them differently. So I think going blind in stages helped a lot. Because my left eye kind of went first, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to have to figure this out, because so the other eye's going to go soon. So I was able to teach myself. I was able to self-solve, find a lot of my own resources. I relocated from Nevada to Florida with my job, and I met the most wonderful doctor, had a very different experience. And when my sight started deteriorating in my right eye, he was fantastic. He put me in touch with Lighthouse for the Blind. They taught me a lot of skills. I say I went to blind school and learned how to be blind.
Yes.
They taught me cane skills. They taught me how to clean. There's just so many things that you just don't think,
Yes.
Until you're in that situation.
Yes.
How to adapt my work environment, how to navigate a computer, all the things I needed to do. So spending so much of that initial time in kind of fight or flight, like, oh my gosh, figure it out, self-solve. I don't think I did properly grieve. So when my sight started deteriorating in my right eye, that was a much more difficult transition. I kind of thought, well, I've been had, but I was so grateful to have those resources and have, I started getting more involved in the community. I started seeing other people who had been successful. And so now it's very important to me that I be that light for someone else. You have to accept that your sight is gone. It's not going to come back. This is a new life. This is a life you have, and all that you can control is what you do with it. That no amount of tears, no amount of cursing, no amount of yelling will bring your sight back.
That's
so
right.
All you can do is pick it up and figure out what you do moving forward.
That's right.
There was definitely varying degrees of sadness, depression, happiness, but I'm at a very good place. I'm very peaceful. If I were granted 3 wishes, getting my sight back would not be one of them.
Wow.
So
wow.
If the technology emerges and I can have it, it might be fun to drive again, do some things.
Sure.
I'm very okay. I'm very at peace with where I am. I live a very good life. I live a very full life, and I'm very happy with that. Very much at peace with it now.
And how did your son work through the transition with you? How did you work through it together? Because you have another person.
Yeah. And I was very afraid of that. I was very afraid that people would see me as an incompetent mother. I spent the first 2 to 3 years of my vision loss journey not telling anyone. It was like my biggest secret. I would not tell people.
How could you get through life not telling anyone?
you develop so many, like I told my family, right? Like my mom, my dad, my immediately family, but like at work, I just learned to make my screen bigger and sat a little closer. And if people thought I was a weirdo, I'd rather have that than them thinking I was one. Yeah. So it was like a very big secret for me. I was afraid people would think I was incompetent. I would lose my job. I was afraid that I was just so afraid. I was thinking I couldn't be a good mom, so many things. So he's been awesome. I just, told him like, hey dude, you know what? Like I went to the doctor and I can't see that good. And he was like, you can't, like you need glasses. I was like, no, like I really can't see that good. Like
it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah. So we found a cool thing that like showed him how I see. And, I showed him my eyeball pictures, which he thought was cool. And he learned to give sighted guide. And, so he's my little sighted guide sometimes. And
that's nice.
He has become the most little empathetic champion for disabilities. Like he's my little feminist, girls can do it, mom can do it, people with disabilities can do it. And so I think it's great that he's growing up with so much perspective and reference because I think ableism, a lot of it is unintentional. It's just because we never thought about it.
That's right.
And society is not built for people with disabilities.
That's right.
So he's growing up with that extra awareness. So he's always saying like, Mom, why is this like that? That's not right. Blind people can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Even like he plays Minecraft and he's like, look, Mom, they made this skin for people with visual disabilities and you could probably play this. And so he's a little champion. I'm really proud of him. He does a great job. He's awesome.
Excellent. So you also mentioned that you used to work in makeup, and every time when I look at your Instagram profile, I'm like, oh my God, so amazing. I mean, like, I used to do makeup a long time ago, but now I just slap my lipstick on and then red lipstick, I'm good.
I did makeup professionally, and that was a big thing for me that I feel like I lost. And so now I have my little tricks.
Yes.
I think it's muscle memory.
Yes.
No one wants me to do their makeup, but I can manage mine.
Yes. You always look fabulous.
Thank you.
Where I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're just such a beautiful, beautiful human. Wow.
You're so sweet. Thank you. I think you look great, girl. You don't need the makeup.
Thank you. Just got my lipstick, and that's all.
It looks great.
That's all I can manage.
It looks wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm flinging my afro. It's good.
Yeah. I don't have any either.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I was wondering if you can remember your first race when you set out and you were in this, in this new sort of, this new you, right? Right. You're like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to race. And here I am. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a Spartan race, a Spartan beast. For my 30th birthday, I had rented a cabin in Montana for the Montana Beast, which is a known, very brutal Spartan race in the mountains, very long. And I had let my few little friends in on my secret, hi, surprise, I'm one now. So my friend Jen, God bless her, she was my guide. And, I remember showing up, and I don't know that anything has ever scared me so much in my life. I cried. I thought for sure I couldn't do it. But Jen was there with me. And again, it was just a reminder that you can do these things and you will do these things. You'll do them differently. The hills probably were a lot slower than I wanted them to be because of the depth perception. But she was wonderful. She guided me for many years until I relocated. And it was wonderful. It was really great. It felt so good mentally to be back in my element and with my community and in my space. And it was so definitely much needed. And then after I got that first one out of the way, I was like, we got this. Keep going.
Got this. It's good. I'm good. So when did you run your first marathon? When was that?
My first marathon was 2017. I did Rock and Roll San Diego. I was very unprepared. I think I ran probably maybe at most 13 miles for my longest training run. Wow. It was a bad idea, but I had so much fun.
Yes.
I met really wonderful people.
Absolutely.
I met so many other people from other communities because I was running in Las Vegas before. And I would run with that local community, but there weren't many international races. So I started seeing how big the community was, and people from every race, every nation, everyone was there. And marathon's like a big party. So it helped that people built bars in their driveway for that race. So I think that helped me get through. When I was woefully unprepared. But that was a great race. It was so fun.
Awesome.
Very hilly, much hillier than I anticipated, but very good.
Excellent. That's so awesome. So in what way would you say that running has been helpful? Is such a low key word. It's not really the right word, but in what way would you say that running has been beneficial to you over the last, few years? What has it done for you?
Oh my gosh, in every way. I'm like the running evangelist. Everyone must run. It's so good.
Same.
It's so wonderful. And I've converted so many friends that run with me now, and that's wonderful.
Yes.
I would say probably the biggest thing is I grew up with a mom who was very unhappy with her body, and I love my mother, and she just didn't have the same life experience that we're able to have now. So she was very unhappy with her body, and unfortunately a lot of that got passed on to me. And I think before I started running, I was very unhappy with my body. But now I don't care what I weigh. I don't care what the scale says, because guess what? I can run 26 miles.
There you have it. Yes.
Okay. My body is strong. So it's taught me to be really, really thankful for my body.
That's right.
My body has carried me through so many races. So I'm eternally grateful for that. I think it helped me to not be mad at my body for going blind because it's done so many other wonderful things for me.
Yes.
Mentally, when my job is tremendously stressful, it is just my happy place. The shoes are on, the headphones go in, and the world is off.
Yes.
And it's brought me the most beautiful human beings. I have so many wonderful friends that I've met through running. And it's a shared experience, shared journey. They're so like-minded.
Yes.
It's been everything.
Awesome. I love that. I love to hear that. I feel the same way. I think once you drink the Kool-Aid of the running, there's a jar. There's a jar.
Drinking the Gatorade.
And it says, this is running Kool-Aid. Careful, it's dangerous, very addictive. Once you drink from that jar, you're like, no, really? No, you should totally do it. You should do it. And people are like, you're going to do what on the weekend? You're going to run what? Wait, what?
Yeah, they're like, I'll give you a t-shirt. Like, you don't have to run 20 miles to get one. And I'm like, but I want to, and I'm going to pay them to let me do it. I'm really excited about this.
So excited about it.
You don't get it unless you get it. But once you get it, you can't unget it. You're like, I know what that is.
I know what that is. I know what that is. I totally know what that is. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I usually always ask this question. If there was advice that you have been given, or if there's advice that you would like to give, what would it be?
My biggest piece of advice for running, for life, for everything, and it's my life motto is, in the end, it's all okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
I love that.
It goes on. Life goes on. If you had a bad race, it's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. You'll run again. If you're having an injury, you'll heal. You'll run again. If something terrible happens in your life, you'll heal. You'll get through it, and you'll move on.
Absolutely.
In the end, it's all okay.
I love that. I love that. Love that advice. Love it. So is there anything that you want to talk about that we have not talked about? Anything that you'd like to share? I am here for it.
I'm just kind of doing my thing, getting ready to start Dopey training. I'm going to do Dopey in January, so I'm stoked about that.
Yes.
I'm just, a friendly blind girl reminder, be kind to, guided runners. Everyone be kind if someone's moving slow, doing things a little different. And I think the other thing I really would like to tell people is, if you see someone with a disability, I know a lot of our parents told us, like, oh, don't ask, don't bring it up. If it's me, I hope you ask. I hope you ask in a kind way, that it is totally okay. Many people are open to talking about their disabilities. Many people are open to sharing. And as long as it's done in a respectful manner, it's an awesome community. It's an awesome opportunity to learn about another person, learn about another community, and they can teach you a lot. So don't be afraid to ask kind and respectful questions.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I once tried to give my parents sort of like a lesson on how to chat with people about their pronouns. And, I said, it's okay if you actually, you say, what are your pronouns? People will really appreciate it if you ask them. They're like, oh no, that just seems so invasive. I mean, how could you totally? And I'm like, okay, well, just keep going around and making assumptions about what you think, and you're going to get yourself in hot water. I think that as long as you, like you said, as long as you are being respectful and you're not, asking invasive questions of someone that they're not ready to hear from you because you're not friends, right? Then better to have a conversation and to learn more about someone. Yeah.
I would just say lead with curiosity. If there's something you're genuinely curious. I had a very silly question once. Someone asked, I shared that I was visually impaired, and they said, well, how do you take a shower? And I said, things in the world. You want to know how I take a shower? Like, not how I get around, not how I use a computer, how I work. You want to know how I stand under a stream of water that requires literally no vision? I mean, I'll tell you, but it's a little weird.
I don't know. How do you take a shower? I mean, do you like step into the tub, you turn on the water, and then you soap up and you rinse and you get out? Like, what do you need to know?
It's really not that different. Like, you want to know what kind of body wash I use? Like, do I smell nice? I don't understand, but okay. Yeah, so just lead with curiosity, even if it's a little silly. I'll be happy to tell you.
Yes. Lead with curiosity, care, and respect. I definitely think that is the best way to lead. Oh my goodness. Wow. It has been, oh my goodness. I have just like thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you. Laughed a lot. Like, I love to laugh. So that makes me happy.
Oh, good. Yeah, I love communicating with you, talking to you, sharing my story. You've made it awesome and very easy, very comfortable environment.
Awesome. Jodie, thank you so very much for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
It's been a pleasure.